welcome to the south of France. The sun has risen on the Côte d'Azur to herald the swimming, cycling and the running of the 10th Nice International Triathlon. For those of you who don't know exactly what's involved in this grueling event, then with the help of my colleague Julie Moss, let us explain.
The swim is 4 kilometers in distance around the Bay of Angels here in the center of Nice. This is where the triathlon will start at precisely 8 a.m. this morning on the Ruelle Plage. However, the calm water of the Mediterranean fill can be really deceptive because once those swimmers start churning the water, it's the most vicious swim in triathlon history. Forced me into early retirement.
And on leaving the water, the athletes change for the cycling section, and none can be more punishing than the Nice version. It's 120 kilometers over the Var River and inland towards the mountains. There are steep descents as the course passes through 10 villages before rejoining the coast road and heading back to the finish on the Ruelle Plage.
Back then through the transition area to dismount and set off on the 32-kilometer run following the Promenade des Anglais past the airport and along the coast roads through Saint-Laurent-du-Var before the halfway turnaround at La Siesta. Then it's a case of finding all those hidden reserves to get you back to the Ruelle Plage and the finish line.
And here's a man who possesses more hidden reserves than probably any other triathlete in history. He's Mark Allen of the United States. 7 times out of 7 he's won this title, but let my colleague explain his secret. Julie just happens to be married to him.
Bill, if I knew his secret, I'd try and market it in France. But actually, I think it's just a matter of Mark having a very special relationship with the French people and this particular course. He came to Nice after many big disappointments, and it was his first really big win. So now, with the support of the French people and being able to speak the native tongue, which he learned after his second victory, he's able to come to France as an adopted son. Mark has had a chance to race against his biggest and toughest adversaries here in Nice. I feel he's quite lucky to have come out on top. In 1986, Mark won for the 5th time and said that was his last time in Nice. Never say never. After a 2-year pause, Mark didn't like seeing somebody else's name attached to the race, so he was back. And again, he was victorious. Number 6. In 1990, he met with Mike Pigg and went on to win by 10 minutes.
What an incredible act to follow, unbeaten here in Nice, but does he think that the winning streak can continue?
Well, I hope so. Each year it gets harder, and this year is probably going to be the most difficult because it is 10th year anniversary of the race. All the athletes are here who have won it in the past, plus, anybody else who has a chance in the world is here. This is probably one of the, if not the most competitive races that I'll come across this season.
Competitors come no tougher than this lady, Paula Newby-Fraser of Zimbabwe. Having captured the women's title in 89 and 90, Paula has her sights firmly fixed on a hat trick.
What I like is the fact that every year that I come back, I'm a little bit more confident about the bike ride, a little bit more confident about the descents, and I think that this is a race where experience is definitely so valuable. So I always feel a little more relaxed every year that I come. I always get very anxious, have gotten anxious in the past years about the bike course because of, the descent, the climbs, the technical aspects of it. But this year, I'm a little bit more relaxed about that.
Well, if you're inclined to think that the race is a foregone conclusion, then as we wait for the 8 a.m. start, here's how Germany's Wolfgang Dietrich reacted when he was asked for his prediction.
That's the race, and everything can happen. So I don't know what to say about, who will win, who will.
Well, Wolfgang not too sure there, but at least there's no doubt about the time. It's 8 a.m. Well, it's a spectacular sight, Julie. You've been in amongst it. Now, what's the first problem that they're going to face as they go off?
Keeping calm, Phil. You've got so many people around you. You've got the first buoy is 400 meters out. Everyone's squeezing in and very anxious. So keep calm and keep safe.
Well, it's one of the most spectacular sights in any sport, and it's the 10th year for the Nice Triathlon, making it one of the oldest triathlons in the world. A record entry in this anniversary year, 1,300 competitors starting the 1991 event. Now, in the swim especially, Julie, it seems to me the women are on equal terms here with the men.
They sure are, Phil. In fact, there are one or two women that these men count on pacing off of. It's not a surprise for them to see a green cap pull up alongside.
Not unusual either in this mass of swimmers here that one or two get kicked, and of course 8 years ago we had the jellyfish problem when one or two weren't even able to finish the swim.
And way back in ancient history, they weren't even wearing wetsuits, so things have come a long way.
Well, even at this early stage, class is beginning to tell, with Dietrich furthest from the camera, looking slightly more decisive than he was a little bit earlier when he spoke to us, and he shares the lead here with Rick Wells of New Zealand, both of them pulling away from the chasing group. Wells looking particularly strong, so how do you plan to dictate the pace from the start?
I'd like it to be a hot swim, because then it'll get rid of some of the tail enders that sort of try and sit on the feet. I'll definitely try and force the pace in the swim a lot more than what I have done lately, because I want to try and dictate a little bit more in the swim than what I have done in the past. So I'll be looking at lasting out from the blocks, and hopefully, whoever wants to come along for the ride, well, that's all right.
Just over 6 minutes into the swim, and it's Wolfgang Dietrich who at the moment appears to be the more enthusiastic to do just that.
There's Wendy Ingram in the green cap. Does she have a plan as well?
Yeah, I hope to get next to the fastest men and take it out with them, and hopefully I could just pace off of them until the first buoy and get into a groove.
Wendy seems to be doing just that right now.
Well, it's an excellent start by the 1987 men's winner, Rick Wells from New Zealand. He just got inside 6 hours then. He beat Scott Tinley by 8 minutes, and the French surprise, Hervé Niquet. A good start for him then, Julie, and the women are also going well, especially with Wendy in front.
The women are wearing green caps to distinguish them from the men. There's Paula Newby-Fraser settling in nicely. Fellow Americans Jan Ripple and Colleen Cannon seem to be pulling one another along and staying with the pace.
And now it's round the first buoy in this 4-kilometre swim section of the 1991 Nice Triathlon. Dietrich's now the clear leader. Is this something he's planned?
I think that I try to go in the water as fast as possible for this race. And it's 4K long, and the race also is over 6 hours, so I try to go away, not alone. I think there's Eve, there's Richard Wales, a couple of other people that can swim with me, but it's not like St. Croix few weeks ago where I was third or fourth all the way. I try to go a little bit faster this time.
It's still very early in the overall race when you consider that Mark's record from 1986 stands at 5 hours 46 plus.
Well, that's true, Julie, and our helicopter camera here gives you the perfect view of how quickly the swimmers string out. Just look at this.
Wendy Ingram, in her strongest section, continues to lead the women along. And that's the Dutch woman, Thea Sebesma. She's rapidly improving in the triathlon ranks in Europe, and it's worth remembering she was third last year here in Nice.
Wolfgang Dietrich leads this enormous field of 1,300 competitors.
There are a cluster of challengers in the women's race, but none of them are making any impact on the lead being enjoyed by Wendy Ingram. She's swimming superbly, and she's going to need every bit of that distance that she gains. She's assured of being the first out of the water and onto the bike in this year's Nice Triathlon.
Our aerial shot here shows the lead currently being enjoyed by Dietrich and Wells, and behind them, Dave Scott, nearest the camera, has joined Mark Allen, realizing, I'm sure, that Allen is the man to stay with, or should I say, attempt to stay with. Up ahead, there's very little to choose between Dietrich and Rick Wells.
As for the women, another American, Renee Goldhirsch, has made second position her own, but still comfortably out in the lead, Wendy Ingram. She's looking very relaxed, and certainly this section of the course has gone perfectly to plan for her. This is the turn for home that takes the swimmers along parallel with the beach, and moving ominously through the field, and probably her weakest section, is a certain lady by the name of Paula Newby-Fraser. She's in third place.
And here's Wells and Dietrich matching each other stroke for stroke out front and aiming to put maximum distance between themselves and Mark Allen for the bike section. Talking of the champion, what brings him back to Nice?
The ambiance, you know, it's France, it's on the Riviera. It's a great competition. It's always hot race day. You know, you come in, you're sweaty, you're beat, you're tired, but you come down the Promenade des Anglais and the people are just cheering and going crazy. There's nothing like it.
Well, I wouldn't argue with that, but let's go back to the swim, because here's Dietrich at the front, and he's managed to create now a slender lead over Wells. It's looking odds on now. The German will be first into the transitional area, and with a bit of luck, they'll both be out in under 47 minutes. And then it's a race to the bikes to begin the second stage of the triathlon. The last few strokes, then it's off through a freshwater shower to wipe away 4 kilometers of salt, and then it's to the bikes. Out come Joachim Zemke of Germany and the Frenchmen Laurent Bernard and Yves Cordier, the Sun Prince. Dietrich dons his helmet and is on his bike for the 120 kilometers ride. And behind him arrive Scott, Burrell and Allen all together. Also Rick Wells gets going.
Wendy Ingram finishing in a great time along with those first leading men.
Dietrich takes some refreshment as he heads towards the mountains for this most punishing part of the Nice Triathlon, and that's Mark Allen setting off in pursuit.
Wendy will be first away in the women's race, uncontested.
Local man Yves Cordier going very well.
And there's Paula Newby-Fraser coming out of the water in third. So after a great swim, Wendy Ingram leads the women away.
While Mark Allen begins his pursuit of this man, Wolfgang Dietrich of Germany, looking nice and relaxed and out in front. Heading the best of the rest as they go out on the bike ride is the Kiwi Richard Wells. And behind him, Yves Cordier, the Frenchman, and he looks in very determined mood as he now aims to overhaul Dietrich. In the transitional area, Dietrich had taken less than a minute to prepare for the bike ride. And I wonder, does he notice the spectators that line the route?
I mean, not exactly everybody, but you notice the crowds, the noise, and it's good. It feels really good and makes this race really special. That on the whole bike course, thousands of spectators, and I like it.
He wants the champions compete.
Lead seems very relaxed, her hands casually placed on the handlebars. She's going to enjoy this lead while she can. Isabelle Mouton. She's the European champion right now, and she's going to be hard-pressed to make a big dent in Paula Newby. Jan Ripple is using the Nice Triathlon to test her mettle in future long-distance triathlons. Colleen Cannon took extra care to put on a top and shorts. I hope the extra time will pay off. Paula Newby-Fraser is sitting on the heels of Wendy Ingram. She's eyeing her, getting a feel for just how strong Wendy is on the bike.
Back with the men now on the hills of the Alpes Maritimes appear to be taking their first big scalp. Richard Wells, who did so well in the swim, appears to be in trouble. The Frenchman Yves Cordier taking the lead in the 1991 Nice Triathlon. He's caught and now he's going past Wolfgang Dietrich. So the Frenchman, riding in his favourite hills, he now has the head of the race. And this is Mark Allen. A change of gear for him now as he settles into the bike ride. Always one of his strengths here in Nice. And of all the athletes here, he knows this course better than most. They've still got to pick up the Frenchman. Allen riding with Burrell. This is Cordier out in front.
If you're in any doubt about how difficult this event is, just listen to women's race leader Wendy Ingram.
Very long way.
For some though, like Roland Larsson of Sweden, the race is over. A touch of brakes, a steep downhill and a crash, and he can only wait for assistance. While for others, the triathlon was never more than a dream anyway.
Fraser seems to be playing a confident game of cat and mouse here with Wendy Ingram, checking out the situation and when she'll make her move.
The Alpes-Maritimes in the south of France has two major problems for the triathletes, the oppressive heat and the hills, and they all prove to take the toll in a marathon of up to 10 hours duration.
Paula has decided that the time is right to make her move. She's pulling up alongside Wendy and getting a chance to look her in the eye for the first time all morning. It's a chance to offer a bit of information to one another, maybe even be a little cordial. Wendy isn't used to being in the lead, and that's a lonely position. She seems to want to hang on to Paula for companionship. However, Paula enjoys being out in the front and alone. She's always been an innovator in everything from her cycling attire to her cycling equipment, and now she's come up with a new pedal system that she thinks might just do the trick.
Well, the pedal system, it's a kind of a floating pedal system in that the crank length varies throughout the whole circle. What happens is on the downstroke, which is the most powerful stroke of your pedal stroke, the crank extends to 230, I think it's centimeters. And then by the time you swing to the top part of the pedal stroke, it's only 110, so you don't have to lift the weight. I'm really interested to see how it performs here in Nice. I think that it'll be a good comparison to look at my time from last year and see how I go this year. I mean, I feel like it performs really well in the hills. So this is probably going to be the test for the bike, in my eyes.
Well, whether her pedal system is a success or not, one thing is for sure, Paula Newby-Fraser is out in front.
In fifth position with a time of 47 minutes and 51 seconds, but the winner of the swim, Dietrich, was now falling away a little bit, while the winner of every Nice triathlon he's ever participated in, Mark Allen, was beginning to make inroads in the lead of Cordier. Ploughing a lone trail up the mountains of the Alpes-Maritimes, Mark Allen was now on his way back. The all-important drinks at the many feed stops and keeping the fluid in the body is probably the most singularly important thing of any triathlon. So Mark Allen still in pursuit of the Frenchman who's out in front, Yves Cordier. And Cordier seemingly quite concerned because the previous winner of the Nice Triathlon is not yet in sight. Rob Burrell, former winner of Nice, and himself enjoying this, his favourite course.
I like the mountains on the bike. It's challenging, it's tough, it's technically demanding, and also it's not getting too hot out there. It's staying a bit cool, and that's just right for me.
Perfect for the Dutchman who'd won this event in 1988. But what about the winner of 1987, Rick Wells? He was still beginning to fall away from the front. And In second place now, Wolfgang Dietrich, after leading out of the swim. He was now on the defensive. Cordier was now out of his sight, and the rest of the field was closing in behind. At least the important names were. Dietrich, a strong swimmer. He'd proven that. Now he had to prove he could hang on in 120 kilometers of cycling. And let's not forget, there was still 32 kilometers of running to follow. Technically, this course is probably the most difficult in the world. It's narrow roads, it's long drops off the side if you make the odd mistake, and you can lose so much time going downhill as well as going up it. Mark Allen knew all of these tricks of the course. He's ridden it so many times. He's won it all 7 appearances he's made. He knew now, though, he had his hands full because the Frenchman was going very well at the front, Cordier. So Mark Allen had to concentrate very hard indeed. Cordier was enjoying his day out. He'd finished 4th last year and 3rd, his best placing before that. And still hanging on too was Wolfgang Dietrich. And do you think, Julie, that this itself was a little bit of a surprise for Mark to find Dietrich still out ahead of him on the road?
Yes, Phil, I think between Dietrich and Yves Cordier, Mark must be feeling a little frustrated that he hasn't reeled them in by now. Because Yves is a Frenchman in a French supporting group, Mark's going to be worried that the flying Frenchman is going to get too far ahead.
Well, Cordier has come here so many times. He's wanted to win it so many times. He's never had that privilege, but he's certainly got off to a great start now. This is the town of Roquestron. It's narrow streets, and it's very pretty setting. High up the side of the mountain in the Alpes Maritimes. And the competitors know it's still a long way to the highest point, and it's still a long way back down to the Var Valley as well. And the man still setting the pace, Yves Cordier. Mark Allen riding here, his gear levers, as you can see on the top of his handlebars. Innovation is the word in triathlons. They developed these Scott bars, which are now in common use throughout the world of cycle racing as well. And the solid sheeted disc wheels, which they claim is worth a couple of seconds a kilometre. And as you can see too, the roads aren't completely closed to the competitors.
Mark has got to be happy that he's got some company now. He's finally reeled in Dietrich. Next stop, Cordier, if he's lucky.
At least that's what he hopes. So Dietrich has steadily gone backwards, passed first by Cordier, now by Mark Allen, and Allen has his sights set fair now on the Frenchman. Frenchman passing through another feeding station here.
Here's Paula Newby-Fraser, and she doesn't show any signs of anxiety on the descents today. Isabelle Mouton, in second place, traditionally competes with her identical twin sister. Today, she's discovering if she's got what it takes to beat Paula Newby-Fraser.
And this is Yves Cordier with his entourage of following motorbikes and official cars. But in triathlons, you must do it all of yourself. Nobody is allowed to assist you, and should he have the misfortune to flat, then he'd have to change the wheel himself as well.
Again, Paula has her sights set on the end of this bike ride and getting on to the 32-kilometer run.
The lone figure of Cordier continues to blaze the trail, and still no sign of the man he must really now, Julie, be wondering where he is, Mark Allen.
Yes, he's got to be wondering just how far up Yves is. He came out of the water 3 minutes ahead, and Mark would have liked to have eaten that gap up by now.
Well, this is Mark Allen. He was 3 minutes behind Cordier out of the swim, and now he's got to make up for lost time. Mark Allen's record is to drop today the time to beat 5 hours, 46 minutes and 10 seconds.
Wolfgang and Mark are actually working together, Phil. They're trying to chase down Cordier as a team, if you will.
And Mark Allen, high in the sky, is the rider in front here. and lying just about the legal limit there of 10 metres off the back of him, Julie, because, of course, the drafting laws are very significant, especially in triathlons. We had the disqualification a few years ago of quite a number of athletes. And this is the face of Yves Cordier, the Frenchman who's setting the pace. I find it rather surprising, and a challenge coming back from Mark Allen, because Dietrich is going by him here. He can't stay around him. He's got to go by him.
Yes, actually, they're exchanging a few words there. They're probably wondering if any new information has come to light on the position of Yves, but they're going to be seeing a lot of each other. This back and forth business will go on for a while.
Coming up, 3 hours, 50 minutes since the first of the athletes went into the Bay of Angels. Pace behind the stars, well, a little bit more confusing for most. Their ambition to beat the cut at the end of the cycle ride and to have a time on the board at the end of the day.
For these riders in the back of the pack, it's even more important to eat and drink. They're going to be out there a lot longer than the Mark Allens and Yves Cordiers.
Well, this is Yves Cordier, back down on the Promenade des Anglais, the long straight finish, almost 5 miles alongside the Mediterranean and along the famous road with its palm trees. And still the entourage around him, because today it's a Frenchman coming towards the end of the second leg of the 1991 Nice International Triathlon in the lead. And further back the chasers, Dietrich doing well here to stay with Mark Allen, because Allen has caught him in the mountains and came out of the water some 3.5 minutes behind him. And looking very strong indeed. And the other challenger, of course, Julie, Rob Burrell here.
Yes, Rob is Mark's main concern when it comes to the run. Those are runner's legs, and he's entering his strongest suit as soon as he dismounts.
So those are the leading 4 in the men, and this is the leading man coming along a packed Promenade des Anglais. A marvellous turnout for an event in its 10th year. Almost 4 hours on the clock. Cordier 5th out of the water. He covered the water course, 4 kilometres in 47 minutes 51 seconds. Now his time just over 3 hours, just inside 4 hours, as he now goes into the transition and then faces up to the 32 kilometres run. And coming in here, Mark Allen in second place. So the champion of Nice 7 times is still very much a challenger. He's been in this position before too as Cordier goes out on the run.
This is exactly where Mark had hoped to be, and providing there aren't too many difficulties, he's going to have a nice back to look at, that of Yves Cordier to chase down.
Well, Cordier has all of the home support. It's also a very popular figure here in Nice because he's never won the one event he's wanted to do well in, really well. Allen away in second place, and the girls are coming home now. Paul and Newby Fraser out in front. Allen and Dietrich away together, and the time deficit just 45 seconds.
Isabel's only chance now is to really work the descent.
And this is Serge Lecric, who's also done a good one on the bike ride, followed by Rick Wells. But the man setting the pace now and still holding on as he starts the run is Yves Cordier. Not too far behind Mark Allen, and Dietrich trying at last for a top 3 finish in the Nice Triathlon. The departure of former winner Rick Wells as Scott Molina comes in for the transition. It's been a disappointing race for him so far, but he's philosophical about his and everyone else's part in the event.
Oh, the limelight's on the event. You know, we're just the small players. You know, the actors, and you know, the event with or without anybody, I think would be just as good as always.
For almost 10 years among the men, it's been a battle between the men of the United States. This time it's a battle now for nations: France, Germany, Holland, and the USA.
Fraser finishes the bike ride. She's been the consummate professional out there. Nothing flashy, nothing too wild, just a very strong, solid performance. With 32 kilometers left on the run, her hat trick is well in sight.
And for Mark Allen, he's thinking of win number 8. There's only one Frenchman who can prevent it.
Isabelle Mouton has turned in a strong performance on the bike, and with her favorite event still to come, the run, she's going to give France a real hope for a unique double victory.
Wolfgang Dietrich, the German, who led after the swim, has hung on in the bikes, and now he has the run to come.
I like the run because it's flat, and it makes it very easy for me, or easier than hills. I can't run a hill up and down.
Dietrich fighting for his best ever finish in Nice, while at the front Yves Cordier is now finding the challenge he feared most is right on his shoulder. Mark Allen is coming back to the familiar position of being the leader on the road in an event he's never lost. The friendship in a sport of individuals, as the quarry has been caught by one of the greatest triathletes the world has ever known. But he's still got to run away from Yves Cordier, and there's still a long way to go.
Coming to the end of a very long road is Paula Newby-Fraser. Paula is hearing the sounds of a cheering crowd now, which is almost like a double-edged sword. She's excited to be off the bike, but she still has the run to go. That's a long, long way out and back, and she's right now going to be thinking of everything she needs to do to get ready for that run. Isabelle Mouton is counting the seconds now. Pretty soon she's going to see Paula Newby-Fraser coming at her. Paula has time-saving devices on her shoelaces, so she doesn't even have to tie her shoes.
Yeah, breaks out the race.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
And Rob Burrell, 12 minutes behind Mark Allen 1 year ago when he finished third, was now in a similar position but running a lot nearer the front.
Paula will give her watch a quick check, and she is off.
Mark Allen happy in the thought he's in the lead, but there's still the long run to come. It's a simple course, the run. You keep the C on your left shoulder, you turn at the top end, and then you keep it on your right. Still a smile being managed by Yves Cordier at the most crucial stage of the race. And Julie Moss, you finished second in this event. How's he feeling at this stage?
What he's feeling right now is just get me to the turnaround. He's just keeping this race in small increments right now. His legs are heavy. You can hear that he's slapping a little bit with his shoes. Those are light running shoes, and they don't take much punishment. But once he hits the turnaround, that'll be a big burden off his shoulders. Isabelle Mouton is looking forward to the long run. She's a strong runner. She's been kind of relaxed and calm all day, not too emotional. I think she's waiting for her emotions to blossom at the finish line.
Well, she's arriving here some 4 minutes behind Paula Newby-Fraser, so she really has a lot of running now ahead of her to make up that time. Newby-Fraser's time for the course, 2 hours 13 minutes and 10 seconds. Mouton, 2 hours 17 minutes and 54 seconds. In amongst many of the men here, this has been a great performance by the French girl, while the rest of the race was all coming to the end of the bike ride.
Isabelle is off and running to the sounds of a very excited French crowd.
And Mark Allen, Mr. Nice himself, never beaten here, and in fact only beaten twice in the last 24 months of competition. Julie, he is a man that has won the admiration of every triathlete.
I think that mutual respect is something that the triathletes all share amongst each other. But Mark has earned his respect here in Nice, and I think he's quite proud of that.
And the one man today which has given him the most trouble, Yves Cordier, is still running in second place. The turn now is not far away. While the millionaires of the Côte d'Azur bask on the nearby beaches and in the expensive flats, the lone figure of Wolfgang Dietrich is still affecting the result of this race. The man who led out of the swim, maintained a challenge in the bicycle ride, was still a challenger now as the turn was approaching. eccentric, his poker face giving away nothing, was running in third position.
Renee Goldhirsch was the second woman out of the water. She lost quite a bit of time on those treacherous descents. She was worried about that before the race, and now she can settle down and just concentrate on the long run ahead. Paula looks really determined. Nothing is easy about a 20-mile run. And Paula right now is just going to get herself to the turnaround, check out her competition, and then try and get herself back. I think records are out of her mind at this point. For a French woman to finish in the top 3 at this race, now that would be a record. And Isabelle Mouton has that on her mind. Wendy Ingram is finishing a very long bike ride. Fatigue has definitely played a part in her performance today. She's not going to be in any hurry to start a 20-mile run. She's carefully putting her bike up, maybe posing for a shot. Her shoes are posing a bit of a problem. I don't know right now if Wendy's just trying to collect her thoughts or she's a little lazy or what, but she's definitely fumbling around here and taking her time. In all seriousness, 32 kilometers, 20 miles, it's a long way to go no matter what country you're in. And Wendy's in no hurry to start because she knows she's going to have to stick it through and make sure she sees that finish line. A little bit confusing here in the transition area if you're not totally paying attention. It's a nice way to make friends before the start of a long run.
But no running prospect for the world champion, Greg Welsh, out with mechanical trouble.
Paula Newby-Fraser is a completely confident athlete. Cocky is not too strong a word to describe Paula, but right now she is doing her job. She's a professional athlete, and keeping cool and drinking water and just getting to the turnaround is part of that job.
Mark Allen continues alone in the lead. Mark has always laid the foundation for victory in the bicycle ride.
And then the run, it's a long run, 20 miles. A lot of guys are going to start out fast. But you hit that turnaround and you look back and it's a long way back into town. So that's where the real race is going to happen, I think.
The home stretch now for Mark Allen. He's made the turn at 16 kilometers and now with the sea on his right shoulder, he heads for home.
The pavement is really starting to heat up now and the sun is taking its toll. Paula's cockiness is being replaced with concern. Getting one foot in front of the other is her primary objective.
Mark Allen on the right, Yves Cordier passes him on the other side of the road. And not far behind Cordier either is the challenge coming from Rob Barrel, the Dutchman. Mark Allen knows now exactly the advantage he holds over the two Europeans. It's approximately 2 minutes. The two Europeans are having a great battle. Yves Cordier, who'd led for a long way, was now back in second place. And that was soon to be third. As Rob Barrel congratulates Cordier, he must be getting quite tired of this. First it was Mark Allen, now it's Rob Barrel.
Isabelle Mouton is a pretty runner to watch. She strides along gracefully, those long tan legs. She reaches for water now to keep herself cool, but she's got to be confident that no one is going to run her down, and she does have a shot at catching a fading Paula Newby-Fraser.
With the men, it had been a great show of defiance by the popular Frenchman Yves Cordier, now back at the far turn in third position. In second place behind Mark Allen, Rob Barrel leads the way around. Rob Barrel, the European champion in 1985, 1987 and 1988. He also won this event in 1988 as well. And then there was Serge Leclerc, running in the top 6 but almost 19 minutes behind the leader on the road, Mark Allen. At number 1, as he comes down the Promenade des Anglais full of smiles. Burrell was continuing strongly as well, while Yves Cordier, only yards behind Burrell at the turn, was now minutes. And the rest of the race was a familiar pattern.
Paula Newby-Fraser is concerned about her time, but a study in concentration. Isabelle Mouton is keying on her back.
To the cheers of the crowd along the Promenade des Anglais, Mark Allen making it 8 wins in 8 appearances on the Côte d'Azur.
Paula knows that each step in front of the other is one closer to home.
Rob Burrell, a clear second, but will have to be content with that, because the man who's champion yet again is Mark Allen from the United States. A triathlete who has no equal, a man who spends most of his time in California and the rest of it in the Rockies. Inside 6 hours, but away from his personal best time, which is of course the record of 5 hours, 46 minutes and 10 seconds, Mark Allen remains the best in Nice. And for the 4th time in as many years, another top 3 finish for Rob Burrell, this time second. Yves Cordier, the triathlete who hit the wall in the last half of the run, was still content with 3rd. In the women, Paula Newby-Fraser was building a lead of 11 minutes, while Mark Allen was now home, and had he been concerned at any stage?
Yeah, Burrell was running really well the first half, and I was afraid he might catch me. You know, around the turnaround, before turnaround, he was only 2 minutes behind, so I had to pick it up, and then he was about 3 minutes, and then come on.
They say they're going to rename it Promenade Anglais to Promenade des Marc Allen. You like that?
Well, I guess I've done my work here.
To the cheers of the crowd as well, Rob Burrell comes home in 2nd place. His time deficit a shade over 5.5 minutes behind Mark Allen.
By Paula's watch, she knows the men have finished, and she wants to finish too.
Yves Cordier to the biggest cheer of the day. A Frenchman in Nice and home in 3rd place. His deficit 14 minutes behind Mark.
Isabelle is still got hope. Why not? Nothing's over until it's over.
And Wolfgang Dietrich, the leader out of the swim, defiance in the mountains and hanging on in the run. 4th place for the German. And a prize of $3,000, a little way off the $12,000 which goes to the leading man and the leading woman on the day. Germany has a new star in Wolfgang Dietrich, and he knows it. And so all of the men are in, at least the leading men are, and Julie Moss, herself a triathlete professional for 10 years, will now see the women home.
Newby-Fraser seems to compete against the clock more than her competitors, and Paula desperately wanted a course record to go with her hat trick. The wind and the heat made that impossible. Nevertheless, the victory will be sweet. Out of 1,300 competitors, Paula will finish 31st overall. Paula is well on her way to establishing herself as the greatest female triathlete. Certainly here in Nice, everybody seems to think so. With a victory by almost 11 minutes, Paula made things look pretty easy out there, but were they?
Very tough race. Last 10 miles were really tough because of the wind, and Isabelle Mouton was staying steady behind me, so I couldn't relax. I just had to keep pushing.
Any doubts?
No, not really. No doubt.
I think you like it here 3 times.
Yeah, I do. I like it. It's tough, but I like it.
Pity about the record, but it's a tough record.
It's a tough record, and you know, I just didn't have the legs to run as fast as I did last year. You know, I was suffering a little bit on the run. I was just trying to stay steady. You know, I think I ran probably 5 or 6 minutes slower than last year.
Isabelle Mouton Brown is the first French woman to finish in the top 3 ever. And to finish second today behind Paula Newby-Fraser has to be the biggest honor in her triathlon career. She is going to be one happy lady as she crosses that line. For the second year in a row, Thea Sebesma will finish third here in Nice. Another happy day for Holland.
Some 4 hours after Mark Allen has crossed the finishing line and 10 hours since the first athlete went into the water, it's cut-off time for the rest. To them, a place in the result is every bit as important and certainly every bit as deserved. And so it's necessary to sprint to beat the clock. There was no doubt, though, about the winners, champions both of them, Mark Allen of the United States and Paula Newby-Fraser of Zimbabwe. From Julie Moss and myself, Phil Liggett, from Nice, it's goodbye.